A journalist by profession and a poet and a writer by passion, and now debuting his way into Bollywood with Gour Hari Dastaan, we have with us C P Surendran. Welcome to our show, sir, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
This is your first venture as a screenplay writer, in Bollywood. So if you could tell us about your experience, how did it all begin?
Well, primarily it began because I used to have a column in the Times of India some time back. And I think Anand Mahadevan, who is a very well-known director, he used to read my columns, and he wanted for Gour Hari Dastaan, which actually involves a senior citizen's struggles against the bureaucracy and system to find recognition for himself as a freedom fighter. He wanted someone to work on the script and make sense of it from outside Bollywood industry. So he wanted actually a writer who would have some understanding of what the freedom struggle was all about, and someone who could actually make sense out of a narrative which was not overtly dramatic. So he wanted someone who could spin together, put together something which is which doesn't bore the audience at the same time, which conforms to standards of global cinema.
We would love to know about the movie itself, sir. Gour Hari Dastaan, dealing with the struggle of a freedom fighter.
This movie is about recognizing people's identity, people's individuality. You know, that each man has a certain kind of ordeal that he has fought to come to wherever he is now. So we are talking about somebody like Gour Hari Das and his past, and how in a contemporary society like this, we are not much concerned about each other, but which we are not really bothered about what happens to the other person. We are not particularly sensitive about other people's pains or pleasures. In that situation, how does one hold on to one's convictions and one's faith in what one has done before, and to continue that struggle in a very Gandhian stoic way without breaking out into psychotic violence, or without breaking out into a completely sick man. How to continue with the struggle, how to the art of handling one's frustrations in a society full of distractions and I would think to some extent non-care. So this story is about us. It is about the story of an unknown Indian, and I think it is very vital that we respect these stories, because that is what actually made India what it is now.
When we look at the name, Gour Hari Dastaan, right? A freedom file, that's what the tagline goes like, right? So if you could elaborate on the particular name of the movie, are you taking something from the Urdu Dastan Goi, the storytelling style of it? Are you taking something from that?
No, Dastan basically means the story or legend of Gour Hari Das. But the freedom file part of it is that the man in question, that is Gour Hari Das himself, who stays in a western suburb of Bombay, is called Dahisar, close to Borivali. He himself, painstaking care, he had actually built up a large file. This file consisted of his interactions with the bureaucrats, his receipts from them, his appeals to various ministers and top bureaucrats, explaining his case. So he put in about 3 to 3.5 decades of struggle behind this. So over the years, the file became fatter and fatter and fatter, and soon it achieved some sort of a proportion where he actually had to cart it around. So it's a fairly big file. So the tagline of the movie is based on that file.
Where do we see this this story, Gour Hari Dastaan, standing when it is, into the group, competing with each and every biopic out there, because this is one particular genre which is, suddenly is gaining a lot of momentum nowadays.
See, I don't think, I don't think if you talk to, say, his director or to his cast, it's been a brilliant cast actually. I don't think any one of them seriously believes that they are going to compete with, say, Bhag Milka Bhag, which is a very big, expensive production, or Mary Kom. We are talking about good cinema. We are not talking about formula at all here. We are talking about how good cinema need not be boring. We are saying good cinema must or will find its own, small audience, but small but very intimate, interactive audience. Why don't you make sense of your society and your reality and your country? I mean, why don't you try to do that? And why don't you do it with some sense and some style and grace and some creativity going into it? So this is not a Bollywood movie in a typical sense. This is a movie which is trying to conform to standards of global cinema. So I think there is a difference between other biopics and this one is.
How does Gour Hari Das in the movie justify being a hero then?
My reading is a lot of people live through their life, continue doing what they do, and finally die without actually discovering what they really were. There is no sense of discovery. What was I? It's not just me, my husband, my wife, and 3 children, my house and my car. There's something else which you got to find out what you, and you never find out what you are unless you are up against a whole bunch of things which will define your so-called heroism and grit. And in this case, in Gour Hari Das's case, what has actually happened is that because he is a peaceful elderly man who is not given to temperamental flares, who doesn't have huge muscles, and who not even clear what he is supposed to do in the face of non-recognition. The strategy that he can evolve is one of consistent going up and down steps, consistent going into offices and coming out, and you do it for 30 years. Like a 2 or 3 world wars put together, but you have done it. What has happened is that part of your life, the young life, you spent fighting for a country, and the rest of your life you wasted fighting for recognition for that service. So it is a huge waste. But with what grace do you handle it? The disintegration of a life, and what is the grace with which you hold on to it, and how you fight it without losing your humanity, losing your sense of perspective. I think that's a great achievement for any human being, and I think that's what's happened in this case. So I would think it is a very ordinary hero, but I think it is extraordinary kind of courage which goes, I think, largely unnoticed in our society, I would think. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for talking to us. So this was C P Surendran with us talking about his latest movie, Gour Hari Dastaan.